I like arc raiders as much as the next person. For what it's worth, I've got over 200 hours in the game. Now, I know gameplay hours don't directly equate to experience, but I'm sure many of you would agree with me if I say the hidden bunker event in arc raiders is disappointing. For those of you unfamiliar, the hidden bunker is an event that sometimes happens on the Spaceport map. Even though it's not marked on the map, through online guides or just experience, most players know where this hidden bunker is on the map, so there's no mystery or where to find it each time. However, to open it, raiders must first activate 4 antennas scattered around the map. Each antenna is marked on the map, and the entire map knows when each one has been activated through a prompt. Once all 4 antennas are turned on, the bunker automatically unlocks. An announcement is made that it's been opened, and raiders can begin looting it. Inside, there are many containers with high-level loot, and the chance of finding some rare and endgame level blueprints that are used to craft stuff. Basically, high-demand items that everyone is after. So, in brief, just complete the terminals and collect the loot. Now let's talk about the problems with this event, starting with social loafing. In social psychology, social loafing refers to the tendency of individuals to exert less effort when working collectively in a group than when working alone. This occurs because people feel less personally accountable for the outcome, assuming others will pick up the slack. In the bunker event, social loafing happens because the cost, fighting arc waves at 4 different locations and enabling the antennas, is decoupled from the reward, the loot inside. As a result, some players choose to contribute minimally or not at all, expecting others to do the hard work while still reaping the same rewards. This can lead to frustration among more active participants and undermine the cooperative spirit required for successful group play. This brings us to a related issue, the incentive gap. While social loafing explains why some players don't pull their weight, the underlying motivation stems from basic human psychology. Humans are biologically wired for optimal foraging. We want the most calories, loot, for the least amount of movement, effort. If I can stand by the bunker door while you go off and activate the antennas scattered across the map, I am winning the efficiency game. Last but not least, if you do decide to be a good Samaritan and activate the antennas, then there's still one major problem, the sucker's dilemma. Once you realize that by activating the last antenna across the map, you are essentially locking yourself out of the best loot because of travel time, you probably feel like the sucker. By the time you get to the bunker, there'd probably be nothing left but metal scraps, and psychologically, players would rather nobody get the loot than feel like they were exploited by others. Now that we touched on the core issues, let's look at how the event's map and game design contribute to these problems. Specifically, 2 concepts of flow or POI proximity. Flow refers to the natural path or progression that players take as they navigate the environment. Good flow means that players are continuously engaged and intuitively guided from one objective to the next, minimizing downtime and confusion. When this flow is disrupted, for example by forcing players to backtrack excessively or travel long distances between objectives, it can break immersion and create frustration. There's a reason why the adrenaline shot, which restores your stamina, is so prevalent across all raiders. The maps take ages to traverse otherwise. Point of interest, POI proximity, describes how close or far important locations, such as objectives, loot spots, or interactable terminals, are from one another. Ideally, POIs should be spaced to encourage movement and engagement without making players feel isolated or burdened by travel. Poor POI proximity can lead to situations where players are incentivized to camp at high-value locations, aka the bunker, leaving others to do the legwork, making the social loafing issues discussed earlier even more prominent. In the bunker event, both flow and POI proximity are important in shaping the player behavior and experience. If the antennas in the bunker are spread too far apart, it disrupts the flow and encourages uneven participation, as players will naturally gravitate towards the most rewarding positions with the least effort, aka just standing by the bunker. This imbalance feeds directly into a negative reinforcement loop for the most helpful player. A negative reinforcement loop basically occurs when a player's positive action is met with a consequence that discourages them from repeating that behavior. In our case, instead of being rewarded for helping other raiders, the player who goes the extra mile of activating an antenna ends up incurring a penalty, making them less likely to participate in the future. This penalty, if you're wondering, consists of two parts. First is the penalty for participation. If the fourth antenna is far away, the player who activates it is effectively punished with a travel time tax. By the time they run back, the campers who just sat by the bunker have already vacuumed up the high-level containers. The second part is FOMO, or fear of missing out. When the final antenna is enabled, a loot race begins. If the distance to the bunker isn't equidistant for all antenna locations, the game is essentially picking winners and losers based on geographic RNG. Combined, this creates a vicious cycle in which fewer and fewer players are willing to take on the helper role and activate distant antennas, further exacerbating the core issues of social loafing and the incentive gap. But that's not all. So finally, let's look at the misaligned reward schedules. This event uses a backloaded reward schedule. All of the valuable loot, or goop as some of the community calls it, is at the very end. This means that players receive little to no immediate gratification for their efforts during the lead-up phases, such as activating antennas or fighting off-arc. Instead, all significant rewards are concentrated at the conclusion of the event, after the bunker opens. While this structure can create suspense, it also amplifies the problems of social loafing and the sucker's dilemma. Players realize that unless they're physically present when the bunker opens, their chances of benefiting are slim, regardless of how much work they've contributed earlier. This design not only reduces motivation to participate in the earlier stages, but also encourages players to camp near the bunker and avoid contributing, knowing that only the final moments really matter. In my opinion, there is also a distinct lack of micro-rewards. Activating an antenna should provide an immediate dopamine hit. Currently, it provides an arc wave, which you have to fight off, which is a chore in my opinion, not a reward. And to tie this all up, we can look at the effort versus equity theory. According to equity theory, individuals track the ratio of their input to their outcome. So if player A does 25% of the work, activating one antenna, and gets 0% of the loot because player B was simply standing on the bunker door, the perceived unfairness leads to toxic playstyles or players simply ignoring the mechanic entirely in future rounds. That's a lot of negativity and criticism towards an optional event you don't even have to participate in. But you might be wondering, how on earth could Embark Studios fix this event if it's so bad? Here's how I'd change this event to align player psychology with the game's goals. First, the participation key. The bunker shouldn't just open, it should require a data fragment or something to interact with the terminals. You only get a fragment by being present for an antenna activation. No work, no loot. Hold up, you might say this sounds like the locked gate event, where players must locate 4 security codes, or keys, in specific locations to unlock a central, highly rewarding underground area. And based on the community census, that event is not much better. Hear me out, this is just step 1. Step 2 is distributed rewards. Each antenna should drop some reward or at least be lootable upon clearing the arc wave. This provides immediate gratification and ensures that even if you missed the bunker, your time wasn't wasted. And maybe you even got lucky and found a blueprint. Imagine if, instead of just wasps and hornets, the reinforcements included a courier that has a chance of containing a high-tier loot like surveyor vaults and blueprints. I don't think we need surveyor vaults. Step 3 is the slow release. Once the 4th antenna is hit or enabled, the bunker door should take some time to open. We're already get a map-wide cue that it's opening, so why not give the contributing player a chance to catch up with the others? This effectively creates a gathering phase that allows the far-flung players to catch up. Now, I'm not saying that all lobbies will be friendly, and having players gather could actually lead to unexpected PvP. But that sometimes happens anyway whilst players are waiting for the bunker door, so who am I to say that's bad? And I wish there was some form of teleportation or mobility buff for the player activating the final antenna. Maybe they could get a massive speed boost, or even a one-way portal to the bunker's secret lab or something, eliminating this last mile penalty. However, I do think that this form of travel really goes against the lore and design of the game, so I'd leave this one behind. If you stuck around to the end, then thank you. In summary, the current design of the Hidden Bunker event really overlooks the reality that players are driven by incentives and will optimize their strategies to maximize personal gain. We're greedy after all. By understanding and addressing these psychological design flaws, social loafing, incentive gaps, and misaligned rewards, the developers at Embark Studio can create events that not only reward participation and teamwork, but also just deliver a more enjoyable and engaging experience for everyone involved. Ultimately, great game design is about aligning player motivation with intended gameplay, and when that happens, everyone wins. I'm Eurus, and I'm usually that 4th antenna player.